Hey guys, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast, where we focus on the important stuff that's happening in our country today, political and otherwise. Many of us are unhappy with the status quo, the two dominant political parties, and how big money influences everything that happens. We know from sad experience that billionaires buy elections, that corporate media controls the narrative, and that party elites pick your choices even before you get a chance to vote. So there's an appetite for change in this country. And that leads me to my guest today. Travis Misurell is founder of the Future Is Now Coalition, or FINC, F-I-N-C, a new framework that's building a citizen-owned political ecosystem to bypass establishment control and reshape democracy from the ground up. At its core is digital politics, a new lens that helps people cut through the noise and understand who really holds the power and change how they vote. FINC lays the groundwork for digital democracy, a civic participation system where every citizen is heard, every candidate is seen, and independent voices can finally break through. If you've ever felt like the system's rigged, but you couldn't quite put it into words, this conversation will be for you. So, Travis, thanks so much for joining us on Lean to the Left, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's talk about digital politics, how it's different from traditional ways of thinking about democracy, Travis.
Yeah, sure. So one of the fundamental uniqueness of digital politics is the idea that we wanted to come up with something where we can, like most of us in this country can agree on certain fundamental things of a lot of what you were touching on just now. People don't feel represented. They feel like politicians are corrupt, all that stuff. Then where we really fight and differ is our political policy leanings and the narratives. Like, generally, if you really zoom out, there's a similarity in a lot of the narrative, but our strategy on how to fix things can be vastly different. And that's where you get a lot of left versus right. Is government the solution? Is it part of the problem? And a mix of both. So really what digital politics is meant to do is cast a broader net that says, listen, we do have fundamental agreement for most of us in this country around, most of us would want money out of politics. Most of us want more choices in elections. Most of us feel like the system is rigged against us, especially in both in the primary, and then by the time you're in the general election, it's the lesser of two evils. We're trying to build basically just this framework where you could one person, like we have people that are anarchists and also people that are communists that are part of this new movement, and they might fundamentally disagree with how, like, some of them want the stronger government, somebody want very little government, but there's still this commonality that they could agree upon. And really, ultimately, what we're trying to show is that beyond just left versus right, something that's more important is really up versus down politics, or people versus power. And so we're not here to change if people vote left, keep voting left. If they vote right, it's fine if you still want to vote right. But we want people to identify when a candidate is up versus down, meaning that who do they truly serve? Are they really there to serve the citizens, or are their intentions to truly represent you? Or are they there just to serve their big donors? They just want money. They just want power. And so we want people to identify that whether it doesn't matter left or right in that context, that a lot of politicians are in it just for power or money, or they might even originally have had good intentions. Their conflicts of interest kind of grew over time. And so we want to help people identify that conflicts and how to identify, like, who's truly for them, in addition to left versus right kind of mentality.
Okay, thank you. When did this movement begin? Did you start it, Travis?
Yeah, I did. So it was about 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, when I first put this organization together.
So you say it's an organization. So you have people lined up participating. How's this working?
Yeah, sure. So right now we have about 25 people on the team, mostly part-time volunteer work at this stage, but we're putting it together, putting the messaging together. We're very digital activism focused, so we're big on social media and
Sure.
online context. So there's 25 of us internally, and we're also like now we're really getting to the stage where we could be going more and more public. So I've been appearing on podcasts. We're engaging more directly with citizens. So we're at a new stage. It took a while to get the messaging the right way, how to explain this the right way. Still even now trying to make it more concise. But yeah, so we're at this new stage now.
Okay. How can people get involved if they're interested in participating in this movement of yours?
Sure. So right now at the base level, just going to our website, futureis.org, gives you some basic information. It's in construction right now, but we have a huge game plan within the next couple of weeks. It's going to be deeply improved with the language and everything on it. But so that's going to give some guidance. We also have our Discord is our online community where we directly engage back and forth with citizens and engage them in certain getting their feedback. And then also within about the next month, we're launching what we're the Digital Politics Lens app. And that's going to be a way to directly interface with America and really take it to the next level of helping people understand how do I identify who's there for me? How do I become what we're calling a citizen architect? A citizen architect is somebody that learns our mission and our vision and really wants to upgrade democracy. That's really what we're about, is fundamentally upgrading democracy. Looking at the core issues is democracy itself, and issues like Trump and a lot of the problems of the country is really more of a symptom of the problem of our failing democracies. Just that because we're not being represented, it's just getting more extremes on both sides, and that's what's causing the problem. So at this stage, it's about like just gaining awareness of what we're doing, how we're planning to do it, and then also once this app launches, we're looking to interface with America. We have like different surveys that we're going to ask people where they see themselves. Do you see a future? Would you want a future with just two parties, but they're more representative? Do you want multiple parties? Should there be no parties? So different ideas and questions like that of what would most America be happiest if they had the power to change things in the right direction.
So what would you do with that information, Travis?
So basically, the fundamental formula that we want to do is like for any kind of a potential solution for democracy, we want first to let America gather the choices of what could potentially happen, and then build a consensus around one. So, for example, we endorse generally the concept of flexible voting methods, but there's a few of them. There's like ranked choice voting, there's proportional voting, star voting, and ultimately, we're not here to decide for America. We want America to decide for themselves. So the idea is we're going to have different organizations that can explain, like, this is why ranked choice voting is the best. This is why proportional voting is the best, give the pros and cons. And then ultimately, once America is clear on what their choices is, start building consensuses around those choices. So that's in terms of the party structures, in terms of flexible voting, in terms of just down the line, eventually kind of everything. The idea is building this infrastructure that allows them to bring up these choices, go through a whole process. It's really about organizing, building tech infrastructure that organizes these steps so people can clearly see what are my choices, what are the pros and cons, and then decide which one I'm in favor of in different categories.
I understand. So you're not about endorsing specific candidates or supporting one platform or another, right?
Correct. The most we would do is just saying where somebody might lie between up and down politics. So if somebody's more of an establishment candidate, they have a lot of conflicts of interest in their finances, that will shine a little bit more of a light on that versus somebody that just takes small dollar donations. They don't have like sketchy super PACs. So that's the most we would do, but doesn't matter left or right. We're not here to endorse certain policies. We don't really endorse at all. It's just, we would say certain candidates might be digital politics aligned, as in they just really want to build a truly grassroots platform and like truly want to be there for the people. So we're building tools to quantify that and make eventually there's going to be politician report cards that actually score and so show you exactly like what are their conflicts of interest. For example, I always bring up that if you care about healthcare, more important than voting left versus right, look at who's funding their campaign. If they're taking millions of dollars from big pharma or the private health insurance industry, they're most likely not going to be able to fix the system the way you want it. So that's the kind of stuff that we want people to be more aware of. But then from there, if you believe in a more right-leaning healthcare versus left-leaning healthcare, we're not here to push people in a certain direction.
I understand. Why do you think that it's so important for people to pay attention to all of this and to become involved?
Because it really, money in politics is the fundamental problem. No matter what you care about, what your issue that you follow the most, it virtually all boils down to money in politics and just the lack of true representation. If you look at all the statistics, poll after poll, people be surprised, even on the Trump side, like most Republicans don't feel like they're being represented. And just across the board, people don't feel represented. In the last election, 63% of Americans said they would actually prefer a third party viable alternative. Most people today, the approval ratings are low as ever in modern history. The people feel that all they're doing is the lesser of two evils. And so even if a lot of people, I know, especially on the left, obviously, is very focused on anti-Trump, and I totally understand it, but he had an opportunity to do what he's doing. The system was already failing, and he took opportunity of it. And also, he spoke like a populist, and that's how he got a lot of votes. He said the system is failing. More in 2016, he was talking about draining the swamp and that there's corruption. So
Right.
he spoke intuitively to people of what the problem was. It just, the actions are not exactly aligned. But
Yeah,
so again, what?
not exactly, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. So why is it, do you think, that democracy reform hasn't worked? What are we missing?
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest issues is that like there's a lot of great reforms out there, but they're fragmented, they're working separately, in a lot of ways working against one another. So for example, like a movement of ranked choice voting might try to push against, oh, proportional voting, it's stupid. This is why that's not good. This ours is the answer. So there's a lot of rivalry where there should be some working together. And then even like in a lot of situations with left versus right, especially like third parties, for example, libertarians and then like the Green Party are on two sides of the spectrum, but they should still work together to some extent. Both of them would be majorly advantageous if flexible voting was legalized. Money out of politics would help them. There's a lot of things that they have in common, and so we're trying to build what we're calling a meta movement, a movement of movements where some groups will have a lot of fundamental disagreements with one another, but there's still this commonality that we want true representation, the money out of politics, things like that. So part of this digital politics and then eventually digital democracy, which is going to be the tech platform, is the goal is to really focus on those commonalities that, listen, you guys, you're not going to agree on healthcare, you're not going to agree on this issue, that issue, but here's where you are in common. So let's like work together to push money out of politics and these flexible votings. So across the board, we want to really help people learn how to work together and accept each other's differences. Like I know certain issues, people get really heated and it's very personal to people, but
Sure.
this fundamental issue, it's basically like no matter what you agree with, what we're trying to offer will personally benefit you. Unless you're one of the billionaires, this will benefit you wherever you are in the aisle. We just want you to have a louder voice in the system.
Travis, yeah, I get that. Now, there are a number of groups, especially on the left, that are working to attract and get involvement from more young voters and young candidates. Do you feel like what you're doing fits into that
Yeah.
initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our key focuses also is to modernize activism. Activism is still like all about the protesting and just physical being out on the streets. But the younger generations, they speak digitally. They want to use social media and digital infrastructure. Not that protesting doesn't have its purpose, but now there's this other layer of digital activism, and we're trying to evolve what that looks like and build better infrastructure around that. But yeah, so far we appealed. Our key demographic right now is Gen Z, millennial, digital natives in general are really liking our message and what we're about.
Yeah, I would think that would be the case. Are you lined up with any of these organizations? For example, David Hogg's organization?
Not directly quite yet. We're still getting our footing with these organizations. We've been talking to a lot of organizations that are more just purely on the democracy stuff, like money out of politics. We're talking to movements that do like the ranked choice voting. The next week or two, I'm meeting with somebody that's heading like the star voting stuff. We are talking to Indivisible right now. So we're getting more, we're kind of ready now. This is really when we're really getting out into the awareness stage and interactive stage. So we're getting there.
I understand. Okay, good. Now, how does digital politics change the way someone engages with politics in their everyday life?
Yeah, so the idea is really both whether you're looking for a politician to support as well as the media, we really want people to see like what is their incentive of what when the news media, for example, is painting a narrative to you, what is their actual incentive? Because the establishment media, there's about literally six companies that own 90% of TV media. And yes, they each have their own alliances on left versus right, but more importantly, they're all pro corporate. They want to shut out grassroots candidates, people that they find a threat. And their narratives, their polling and everything shows that if we scare people more, we're gonna have more views, and if we bring a microphone and accentuate the most extreme voices, more people are gonna tune into us. And so they're incentivized to make the polarization worse. And so what we really want to tell people is we're not saying pick a more left-leaning or right-leaning media, but find independent media, find ones that where their incentive structure is a small dollar, they're getting donated, they're getting their funding through like small dollar donations and like Patreon, and a lot of internet news outlets have sprung up lately. And just really decide what is their incentive. Are they there to truly give you the truth? And everyone has their biases. Everyone's going to give you a lens from their own opinion, but you just want to see what conflicts of interest are what's controlling their narratives. And so like with the establishment media, it's mostly their advertisers, and those in power are the ones giving them most of their funding. And so there's a lot of influence on following that. But in a nutshell, we want people to really understand when they're listening to news or listening to a politician, listening to anyone really, to like really see who's influencing that. Is it average people or is it a special interest?
Yeah, we've seen the results of some of this influence just recently with some of the changes that are taking place. For example, at MSNBC, the announcement from CBS that they're canceling the Colbert Show. Trump says next will be, what's his name, on ABC, the late night host on ABC. Trump's got his fingers in all of this stuff. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, it's we could plainly say it's horrible. And in some ways, like what Trump's doing is showing like a lot of this has been happening even before Trump. He's making it to a much larger extreme and more out in the open. And in some ways, I hate to say it's kind of helpful that now people can see right in the open how a lot of this corruption does work, because these things would happen just quieter, not as intensely as what's happening now. But there's always been control behind the scenes and always been this manipulation behind the scenes. And now it's kind of worse it's ever been, but it also shows people, to kind of wakes them up. They can really see how it's happening like right in front of them.
Yeah, they've just passed this $9 billion bill where they're cutting public broadcasting, cutting the legs right out of public broadcasting.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt a lot of radio stations
Yeah.
around this country, especially smaller ones in rural areas.
Yeah, no, it's devastating because thank God we still have the internet and independent news outlets on the internet. But yeah, it's gonna hurt. You're definitely right about that.
But isn't that you combine that with with the pressure that is coming from his camp against major networks like CBS, for example. You combine that with the cutting the funding for public broadcasting, and you're right. You're talking about taking away America's right to have a free press.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that mean to a democracy?
Yeah, I mean that is part of what we're trying to address here. So part of my vision on digital politics and then the tech platform digital democracy is that because of this is happening, we envision a network of independent news, independent media over the internet. As this is happening, a lot of what we're doing can't change legislation in our favor right now. So what could we do outside of legislation to compensate for what we can't control? And so we want to make it easier. Like once digital democracy is up and running, we envision any American could just go in one place. They could click on what their political leanings are and different profile, and it could say you're gonna like these independent media, these podcasters. Like this show would be one of them on this list, and basically make it easier for people to find news, alternative news to the establishment news. So it's not fixing what is getting burned down, but it gives like a replacement. And then the goal is really to help independent journalists and independent media flourish in this future digital world of the internet, and kind of replace
one of those organizations that you're talking about perhaps might be the Midas, MEIDES, Midas organization. Are you familiar with them?
vaguely. Yeah, I think I've heard of that
Yeah,
one.
well, according to them, I don't know if this is true or not, but they claim that they have more download, more listens than Fox News, and that Fox News is pissed off about that, and that they are getting threatened by mega people. Uh,
Wow.
and to me, that just compounds the seriousness of this entire situation. Now, Midas is left leaning, that's true. Nevertheless, we need to have these independent voices, just as you say.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that's horrible that's happening. And yeah, so we're just trying to do what we can to build the alternative bridges. So, as bridges internally in the government are burning down, basically, it's like we're trying to build these alternative bridges, mostly through digital means. And it can be significant. Independent media, a lot, especially younger people, they love podcasts, and people criticize this, but they use more social media for their news than the traditional methods. And there's pros and cons to everything. The downside, obviously, with social media is you can go down rabbit holes of misinformation and bad information, but there's also potential for a lot of good at the same time.
It is that social media is a great platform for people to share ideas and to talk about issues and to learn from each other. That is true. That's the good part of social media, in my opinion. And certainly in my case, for the Lean to the Left podcast, I use social media all the time in order to get more views on my show. Frankly, I want these messages to be out there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. So, what needs to happen, do you think, for all of this to take place? How you mentioned you've got an app coming. You're going to be heavy on social media, but what do people need to do to respond?
Yes, we're still in these earlier stages. It's still compared to what we plan to be in the long run. We're very early in the process. We do need people's support, and that can be in different ways, both donations, but also interacting with us. Start watching, we'd like people to start looking at our social media and be responsive. Ask us questions. We're very open. We're building new pipelines to really be able to have a two-way relationship with America. We envision where they could throw questions at us. We can answer them. We're going to do more and more live events as we grow. And what we're doing, it's very outside there's a lot of ingredients to what we're doing. And some of the challenge is both like people grasping what we're trying to do, and then like understanding it enough to understand how big of a change this potentially can be, because it's more than it's not about the tech itself. Yes, tech is a huge part of what we're doing, but it's really about a mindset shift and looking at the core of what the problem is, how more of us can work together, that we're not we can't fight over every policy stance. We're never going to have the people power we need to fix democracy as long as we're fighting over every single issue. If we just can really focus at the core, I mean, even a lot of the MAGA, they're being misdirected. In a lot of ways, at this fundamental level, they see that there's this concentration of power. They see it as the government, and so CBS and all these public stations, they're saying that, oh, that's the establishment, when the truth is, some of government is part of the establishment, but it's also private industry is part of the establishment. The billionaires are part of the establishment, and that's part of what they're not always getting. And both, a lot of people have a different blindness of what they see as the establishment, and they don't really see it as the right whole picture. So a lot of it's a reframing of really understanding how power works in this country, how this is causing the issue. Yes, as bad as people believe Trump is, that he is a symptom of the issues. If we had a healthier democracy, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in today. So those are some of the fundamental things that for people to understand. So for people to just help, like, I know we're not the most concise, and specifically me, and concise in how we're explaining the mission. We're still evolving. We're still learning how to say it. There's just like, so many layers to it, so different, but like we've come along where we're able to do like elevator pitches and whatnot right now, but it's still, there's a lot of pieces to it. So we actually need, as we see more people, like what they resonate with, what parts of what we're doing they do understand. Sometimes people give like like kind of rephrase what we're saying in their own way, and it's like, oh, that sounds great. Well, and we can learn from that.
What is it that prompted you 2.5 years ago to launch this initiative? What's in your background, or what prompted you to do it?
Yeah, so all my life, my background's been in psychology and kind of system thinking. I have my bachelor's in psychology. So the way I see it, it's all about the framing of people's perspectives, the narratives they see. So even when I was a little kid, I always identified myself as neurodiverse. It's only into my later years I learned it was actually autism. But I remember a sixth grade math class, I looked around the room and I knew I saw things differently than other people. But like the way I see patterns of like how human behaviors are, how the system should be versus how it is, that's always been innate in my interests my whole life, and that's why I went down the pipe of psychology. And then it wasn't really till 2016, between Bernie and Trump getting involved, got me much more political. Before that, I saw it as just, I was interested in society and psychology in general of our society, but then it got way more political around 2016, and then got fine-tuned into specifically being politics, and then seeing how there's so many different narratives in the country, and I wanted to build a solution that no matter what you believe, whatever your narrative is, what we're offering you would be a solution, would be beneficial to whatever you believe does exist. Even if your narrative is wrong, the more somebody would learn about what we're doing, would understand that this is in their favor, gives them a louder voice, it gives them direct feedback into what the future of democracy could look like.
Where do you get the funding for this project?
So it's at this stage, it's all grassroots funding, $5, $10 at a time, but eventually from a lot of people. We have to be careful on who's doing the funding. But ultimately, in a nutshell, for the cost of 2 Senate campaigns, we could give digital democracy to all 50 states nationwide. The current system costs billions of dollars. And if we could just funnel a small percentage of that towards this and build a better system that works for everyone, it'll just completely flip the system.
So you're looking for contributions from people?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
We're all grassroots
So
funded.
if people interested in helping out and getting involved and learning more, what should they do?
Yeah, go to futureis.org. That'll direct you from different places. Futureis.org/donate is our donation section, but you can just click it from the top. So definitely there. Our social media is a great way. Our handle is at futureis.org. Our main ones are TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook. We're on a couple others. So it's a good starting point. We have a lot of milestones we're about to complete in the next month: a revamped website, clear explanation of the mission. The app is launching. So a lot of stuff's happening just in the next month. So for people, they should join. They can look us up right away, join our email list, and then you'll get all these updates as they come out over the next month.
Well, good. I'm glad that you chose our podcast as one of your early initiatives to get the word out, and I do appreciate that very much. And we're more than happy to help out. Thanks, Travis, for being with us. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Yeah, it was a great having conversation and being able to speak on here. And yeah, just everyone, I know it's very bleak the way things are right now, and it's very divisive, and people feel like everything's falling apart. But there is a hope. We have a really unique solution here, and we just need to get more support, get the awareness out there, as well as try to iron out the easiest ways to articulate it, which is coming very soon. So just people should stay up to date, because there's a lot of great upgrading that's going to be happening just within ourselves in the next.
All right. Well, that's cool stuff. Thank you, Travis. You cracked me up. You're talking about how you're having trouble with a concise message, and you're talking a mile a minute.
I know.
But you know what? I think you have something here. And thanks so much for sharing it with us. I do appreciate it. Hey guys, I'm Bob Gaddy, founder and host of Lean to the Left. I'm excited to share our new book, Hijack Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, co-authored with political analyst and professor C.J. Waldron. In Hijack Nation, we delve into the unfolding story of America's political landscape through a series of essays from leantotheleft.net. We explore how Donald Trump's presidency has transformed American politics, challenging our values and institutions. Hijack Nation isn't just a book, it's a call to action. It invites you to reflect on what it means to be American in a divided political landscape. Together we can reclaim our nation's greatness. So get your copy of Hijack Nation today. Visit leantotheleft.net and click on the Books tab to learn more and to order.